beneath the surface of the earth, caves have guarded humanity's greatest secrets: prehistoric art, lost civilizations, and even unknown human species. For today's video, I'm going to take a look at 20 cool discoveries found in caves. Number 20. The Dead Sea Scrolls, the Qumran Caves of Israel. In 1947, a young Bedouin shepherd named Muhammad el-Deeb threw a stone into a cave near the Dead Sea, and he heard a sound of breaking pottery. Inside, he discovered several clay jars containing ancient scrolls wrapped in linen. What he found would become one of the most significant discoveries of the 20th century, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Over the following years, archaeologists and local searchers have uncovered more than 900 manuscripts from 11 caves in the Qumran region. These scrolls date from roughly the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century CE and are written primarily in Hebrew, with some in Aramaic and Greek. They include fragments from every book of the Hebrew Bible except the Book of Esther, along with non-biblical writings like sectarian rules, prayers, and apocalyptic texts. Many scholars believe they were produced or collected by a Jewish sect known as the Essenes, although the others argue that connections remain unproven. Physically, the scrolls were incredibly fragile, made of parchment, papyrus, and copper. The copper scroll discovered in Cave No. 3 in 1952 stands out, as it lists what appear to be hidden treasures that are buried across Judea. Most historians view it as an inventory of temple treasure from the Second Temple period, but none of the items listed have ever been found. The Dead Sea Scrolls have reshaped our modern understanding of Jewish history, language, and religion in the centuries leading up to the birth of Christianity. They showed that Judaism in this era was far from monolithic. It included multiple competing groups and interpretations of Scripture, and the scrolls do provide some of the earliest known copies of biblical texts, predating previously known manuscripts by nearly 1,000 years, allowing scholars to trace the textual changes and confirm the remarkable accuracy of later copies. Number 19. The Altamira cave paintings in Cantabria, Spain. In 1868, a Spanish hunter named Modesto Cubillas discovered a cave near the village of Santa Elena del Mar, but it wasn't until 1879 that it gained attention. That year, an amateur archaeologist visited the cave with his young daughter, Maria. While exploring with a lantern, Maria looked up and famously exclaimed at the colorful images on the ceiling: bison, horses, and deer painted with realism in red, black, and ochre pigments. The Altamira cave paintings were then the first prehistoric cave art recognized by modern science. Radiocarbon dating now places them between 36,000 and 14,000 years ago, during the Upper Paleolithic period. These drawings were created by the Magdalenian people, who were hunter-gatherers living in Ice Age Europe. They had to use natural pigments like iron oxide and charcoal, applying them with brushes made from animal hair, and then blowing pigment through hollow bones to create shading, and even using the contours of the cave ceiling to give the illusion of three-dimensional movement. When Sautuola first presented his findings, many European scholars dismissed them as a hoax. At the time, the prevailing belief was that early humans lacked the intelligence or creativity to produce this kind of art. It wasn't until similar cave art was later discovered in France that Altamira's authenticity was vindicated. The archaeologist, who had died years earlier, never lived to see his discovery accepted. The paintings are more beautiful than just art. They're a record of human expression, tens of thousands of years old. The bison, some over 2 meters long, seem to move across the ceiling in herds surrounded by horses and wild boar. Researchers believe the paintings did hold some kind of ritual or symbolic importance, possibly relating to hunter magic or clan identity, but the exact meaning is unknown. What is certain is that they do demonstrate an understanding of animal anatomy and movement, combined with a sense of perspective and design, which is unmatched for their time. Over the years, the cave's popularity has brought some new problems. By the 20th century, the carbon dioxide and humidity from thousands of visitors were causing mold and pigment damage. And in 1977, the authorities had to close it to the public to prevent any further damage. A replica has opened up nearby in 2001, which allows the visitors to experience the art without endangering the original works. Altamira's rediscovery has changed archaeology forever. It proved that humans living more than 15,000 years ago were capable of abstract thought, symbolism, and art. Today, it's one of the earliest and clearest expressions of the human mind at work, painted deep inside a cave where art met survival. Number 18. The Cave of Petralona in Greece. In northern Greece, near the village of Petralona, lies one of Europe's most important sites, the Cave of Petralona. It became world famous in 1960 when a local shepherd stumbled upon a chamber deep inside the limestone hill and discovered a human skull embedded in a stalagmite. That skull, later known as the Petralona Man, would transform the study of early humans in Europe. When Greek paleontologist Aris Polianos began excavations in the 1960s, he found animal fossils, stone tools, and charcoal fragments that pointed to a long record of human occupation. Among the remains here were bones of extinct species like cave bears, lions, rhinoceroses, and giant deer, which provided a record of Ice Age ecosystems in this part of Europe. The Petralona Man's skull became the centerpiece of the discovery. It displayed a mix of features not seen in modern humans: a heavy brow ridge, thick cranial bones, and a robust face, yet it also had a relatively large brain size. Initially, scientists debated whether it belonged to Homo erectus or an early form of Homo sapien. Later studies suggest it represents an intermediate type, now often referred to as Homo heidelbergensis, a direct ancestor of both modern humans and Neanderthals. Dating the skull and associated deposits did prove challenging. The early estimates placed it around 70,000 years old, but subsequent methods using electron spin resonance and uranium series analysis indicated that it may be 200 to 350,000 years old. The scientific debates surrounding it were intense. Aris Polianos, who dedicated his life to studying the site, argued that the skull represented an independent European evolutionary line. While most scholars today place the specimen within the broader Homo heidelbergensis or Neanderthal lineage, all agree that it fills a gap in Europe's prehistoric record. Petralona symbolizes the continuity of human presence in Europe over hundreds of millennia. It captures a moment in prehistory when early humans learned to harness fire, adapt to the Ice Age conditions, and establish shelter deep beneath the earth. These are steps that would eventually lead to the fully modern societies that followed. Number 17. The Cave of Altinbesik, Turkey. The Altinbesik Cave, located in southern Turkey, is best known today for its underground lake and complex karst formations. But during surveys in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, explorers and archaeologists had uncovered something more ancient: human activity reaching into the cave's recesses, along with traces of early habitation that illuminate prehistoric life in Anatolia. The cave goes on for more than 2,500 meters through limestone, making it one of the longest and intricate cave systems in the region. Inside, researchers not only found large chambers and stalactite formations, but also fragments of pottery, flint tools, and charcoal remains, which indicates that humans used parts of the cave during the Neolithic period. The upper galleries are accessible only by narrow, water-filled passages, and in these flooded sections, divers have discovered some layers preserving sediments from Ice Age climates, which provide some valuable data for reconstructing the past environmental conditions. One of the most unique features is a vast underground lake, the largest known in Turkey. It extends over 125 meters in length, and the steady temperature and mineral composition have helped preserve organic material here, including small charcoal fragments and bone remnants, that offers clues to prehistoric human presence. Radiocarbon dating of submaterials suggests use as far back as 7,000 years ago, though the evidence is still being carefully analyzed. Modern studies have also documented rock carvings and soot patterns consistent with early torch use that possibly indicate ritual visits or symbolic markings rather than permanent occupation. However, the exact purpose of the activities is unclear, and researchers have been cautious not to draw conclusions beyond the physical evidence. Today, the cave is part of a protected national park, and it's occasionally open to guided tours that explore the entrance chamber. And while it may not have yet yielded a discovery as dramatic as the Dead Sea Scrolls, it does continue to reveal insights about how early Anatolian peoples interacted with their landscape. Each year, new research here adds a little more to the growing understanding of human prehistory in this crossroad region between Europe and Asia, where geology and archaeology converge in the still reflective waters of one of the world's most remarkable underground lakes. Number 16. The Lascaux Cave Paintings, France. Discovered in September of 1940 by 4 French teenagers just exploring the village of Montagnac, the Lascaux Cave quickly became one of the most celebrated sites in the world. Inside the winding limestone corridors, the boys and their dogs stumbled upon walls covered in vivid prehistoric paintings, horses, stags, bison, ibex, and mysterious symbols that had lain untouched for roughly 17,000 years. Lascaux dates to the Upper Paleolithic period, specifically the Magdalenian culture, and it does represent one of the most sophisticated examples of Ice Age art ever found. More than 600 painted figures and over 1,500 engravings fill the cave. The artists had to use mineral pigments like hematite, manganese oxide, and charcoal, and they often blended colors using shading techniques that give a remarkable sense of motion and realism. One really neat section of these caves is known as the Hall of the Bulls. It features massive animals up to 5 meters long. Elsewhere, the abstract signs and hand stencils appear, likely serving as symbolic or ritual functions. Although the scholars have proposed many theories from hunting magic to spiritual storytelling, no one truly knows the meaning of these images. Radiocarbon dating of torch fragments and pigment residues do suggest that humans visited Lascaux and it spanned hundreds of years. Evidence also shows that the artists created a scaffolding system formed of wood to reach the high areas. That's a level of planning that shows the cultural sophistication of these early humans. After its discovery, Lascaux Cave has become a popular destination, but by the 1950s, thousands of people were entering the cave each year, and the carbon dioxide, moisture, and heat from human breath began to severely damage the paintings. Mold and calcite growth threatened their survival, leading the French government to close the cave in 1963. To allow the public to experience it without endangering it, detailed replicas, Lascaux 2, 3, and 4, were all created, each improving upon the accuracy and scale of the original. Lascaux 4 opened in 2016, using 3D laser scanning and digital projection to reproduce every brushstroke and contour. Number 15. The Cave of the Treasure, the Judean Desert in Israel. Located on the northern edge of the Dead Sea, the Cave of the Treasure is one of the most astonishing hoards of prehistoric artifacts ever uncovered. In 1961, archaeologist Pesa Baradan led an expedition into a deep cleft in the Nahal Mishmar Gorge, where he discovered hundreds of ancient objects wrapped in reed mats and stashed away in a remote chamber. Radiocarbon dating and associated finds in the area suggest that the cache dates back to more than 6,000 years. The discovery included over 400 items made of copper, ivory, bone, and stone, which is an unprecedented collection for that era. Among them were scepters, mace heads, crowns, and ceremonial objects unlike anything previously found in the region, and the craftsmanship was highly advanced for its time, featuring casting techniques and ornate designs that do predate any large-scale metalworking in the ancient Near East. But the purpose of the deposit here remains a subject of debate. Some scholars believe the artifacts were ritual regalia belonging to a local temple or sanctuary, perhaps hidden for safekeeping during a time of crisis, and others suggest they were offerings or sacred possessions connected to the temple discovered nearby, which was active during the same period. What is clear is that the Cave of the Treasure reveals a level of technological development far beyond what was once assumed for these early agricultural communities in the Levant. The archaeologists' team found that the cave was difficult to access. It's perched in a cliff and reachable only with climbing equipment. This isolated location explains how the objects remained undisturbed for millennia, and when they were first brought to light, the discovery had reshaped scholars' understanding of how early humans in the Near East used metal not just for tools, but for ritual and ceremonial purposes. Today, most of the artifacts from the Cave of the Treasure are preserved in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. Though the identity of the people who hid the treasure is unknown, their legacy endures through these silent, gleaming remnants. These are objects forged by some of the world's earliest metalworkers, concealed deep within the stone heart of the Judean desert and rediscovered more than 6 millennia later. Number 14. Chauvet Cave, France. Discovered in December of 1994 by some speleologists, the Chauvet Cave in southern France contains some of the oldest and best preserved prehistoric art in the world. Radiocarbon dating of charcoal and pigment shows that they're roughly 32 to 36,000 years old, older than those at Lascaux or Altamira. This remarkable preservation is due to the cave being sealed off by a rockfall during the Ice Age and remaining undisturbed until its rediscovery. Over 400 animal figures have covered the walls, including lions, rhinoceroses, mammoths, horses, bison, and bears, many of which are rarely seen in other prehistoric art. Some panels show animals charging or interacting in groups, while others feature handprints and abstract symbols whose meanings are still unknown. One of the most iconic is the panel of the horses. It shows extraordinary artistic skill. Multiple horses overlap in a single composition, their manes flowing and their heads turned as if in mid-gallop. Another section known as the lion panel shows a pride of lions hunting bison, a depiction so lifelike it seems to prefigure modern animation. Charcoal remains from torches and hearths, and it suggests that light sources were deliberately placed to illuminate key wall sections during their painting sessions. And animal bones, including those of cave bears, littered the floor. Claw marks on the wall reveal bears had used this site as a hibernation den for thousands of years before and after humans. But unlike Lascaux, Chauvet was never open to the public. To protect its environment, French authorities sealed the original cave and built an exact replica nearby using 3D laser scanning to reproduce every detail. This approach does prevent the humidity and microbial damage, lessons learned from earlier preservation struggles elsewhere. This cave provides direct evidence that creative and symbolic thought, which are hallmarks of modern humanity, had fully developed by the time Homo sapiens had spread across Europe. For archaeologists and art historians, Chauvet remains a masterpiece of early human imagination, locked in darkness for over 30 millennia and revealed almost perfectly intact. A gallery where the first artists in history left behind their vision of the world. Number 13. The Rising Star Cave of South Africa. In 2013, a team of cavers and archaeologists working in South Africa's Cradle of Humankind made a discovery deep within the Rising Star Cave system. After squeezing through a narrow, twisting passage just 18 centimeters wide, no thanks, they reached a hidden chamber filled with hominin fossils, remains belonging to a previously unknown human species. Led by paleoanthropologist Lee Berger, the team recovered more than 1,500 fossil fragments representing at least 15 individuals, infants, children, and adults. The fossils were remarkably complete compared to most hominin finds, providing a rare look at an entire species' anatomy. Radiometric dating placed them between 236 and 335,000 years old, meaning they lived contemporaneously with early Homo sapiens in Africa. Now, physically, they combined primitive and modern traits. They had small brains, about 1/3 the size of ours, but human-like hands, feet, and long legs suited for walking upright. Their curved fingers suggested they were also adept climbers. The species discovered has challenged assumptions about when complex behaviors emerged in human evolution. But the most striking aspect of the find was where the bones were located. The chamber where they were discovered, known as the Dinaledi chamber, was accessible only through an extremely tight chute that even experienced cavers struggled to pass. This led Berger and his team to propose that they intentionally place their dead there, a form of burial or body disposal previously thought to be exclusive to larger-brained humans and Neanderthals. The idea had sparked some heated debate. Some researchers suggest whether the fossils might have been washed in by a natural rain or water event, but geologic analysis revealed no signs of flooding or predation. The absence of stone tools, animal remains, or other debris does support the idea that the chamber was deliberately used. If true, it means that a small-brained hominin practiced behavior associated with symbolic thought and social organization. However, interpretations remain cautious. While there's no doubt that they possessed unique cognitive traits, scientists are still unraveling how far those abilities extended. But it does show that intelligence and social behavior didn't evolve along a simple linear path. Instead, multiple hominin species may have developed advanced cultural practices independently. Number 12. The Cave of El Castillo, Spain. The Cave of El Castillo in northern Spain holds some of the oldest known cave paintings in Europe. First excavated in 1903 by the Spanish archaeologist Hermelio Alcade del Rio, it revealed layers of human occupation stretching back over 150,000 years. However, its most significant contribution to science came in 2012, when dating the calcite layers covering the paintings demonstrated that some of them were at least 40,800 years old, possibly made by Neanderthals rather than modern humans. The artwork here includes red discs, stenciled handprints, dots, and animal figures like deer and bison. The most famous is a simple red disc surrounded by negative hand stencils made by blowing pigment over the hand to create a silhouette. This technique is found in caves around the world, but El Castillo's examples are among the oldest ever discovered. The earliest images are abstract, consisting of dots and symbols, while later layers include more naturalistic depictions of animals. This kind of sequence reflects an evolving artistic tradition that spans tens of thousands of years. The cave's interior goes more than 700 meters, and many of the paintings are located deep within its recesses. The discovery that some paintings may predate the arrival of Homo sapiens in Western Europe has fueled some debate. If Neanderthals created these images, it would mean they possessed not only tool-making and social complexity, but symbolic thought, a trait once considered unique to modern humans. The red disc at El Castillo predates the famous Lascaux and Chauvet art by several thousand years, making it a key piece of evidence for Neanderthal cognition. Today, the caves form part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site called the Cave of Altamira and Paleolithic Cave Art of northern Spain, and limited guided tours are permitted under strict controls. El Castillo is a bridge between species and eras. It's a place where humanity's earliest known artists, whether Neanderthal or modern, left behind silent red marks in the dark, affirming their presence in a world that has long since vanished. Number 11. The Cave of Tayos, Ecuador. In the Amazonian foothills of southeastern Ecuador lies the Cave of Tayos, a limestone system stretching several kilometers beneath the jungle floor. The cave had gained worldwide attention in the 1960s and 70s after claims emerged of a mysterious metal artifact and possibly ancient construction inside. While many of those early stories have since been debunked or remain unproven, the cave itself holds genuine ecological and archaeological importance. The first recorded exploration of the Cueva de los Tayos, the Cave of the Oil Birds, dates back to the 1960s. It's named after the nocturnal Tayos birds that nest in the upper chambers. This cave was long known to the indigenous Shuar people, who used it as a gathering site. They collected fledgling Tayos for food and feathers in traditional rituals. But in 1976, a major joint expedition organized by the British and Ecuadorian governments brought new attention to the site. The expedition aimed to verify claims made by an explorer, Juan Moritz, who had asserted that he had found a metallic library and evidence of an advanced ancient civilization within the cave. However, no such artifacts were ever recovered, and subsequent studies found no signs of human-built structures. Excavations by the Ecuadorian and British scientists did uncover pottery fragments, charcoal, and stone tools, which show that the cave was used intermittently by humans for thousands of years. Radiocarbon dating suggests that the occupation may date back as far as 9,000. The main entrance descends nearly 70 meters straight down into a massive hall and tunnel carved by ancient underground rivers. And of course, stalactites, stalagmites, and flowstone formations line the chambers, creating a visually dramatic cave system. It supports unique species of bats, insects, and oil birds, which makes it a valuable site for biological research too. But modern expeditions continue to map the passages using 3D scanning and LiDAR technology. While no credible evidence of artificial construction have ever been confirmed, its combination of culture, natural wonder, and deep human mystery continues to attract scientists and adventurers. Number 10. The Red Deer Cave in China. In southwest China, archaeologists uncovered an extraordinary discovery that was challenging modern understanding of human evolution. Between 1979 and 1989, cave excavations near Maoludong, or Red Deer Cave, and Longlin revealed skeletal remains with features unlike any known species of early human. However, it wasn't until 2012 that detailed analysis brought the mystery into focus. The fossils, dating roughly to 14,000 years ago, represented a population that lived long after Neanderthals had disappeared, yet their anatomy didn't match modern Homo sapiens. These individuals had thick skull bones, prominent brow ridges, broad faces, flat noses, and jutting jaws with no clear chin, traits more similar to archaic humans. Their brains were smaller than those of modern humans, and their overall body structure suggested a mix of ancient and modern characteristics. The site's name came from the large quantity of red deer bones found alongside the human remains, many showing signs of burning and butchering. This suggests that the cave's occupants hunted and cooked red deer, maybe relying on them as a staple food source. When the remains were first examined by a team led by Darren Curnow of the University of New South Wales, researchers debated whether these people represented a distinct species, a late surviving branch of archaic humans, or simply an isolated population of early modern humans with unusual features. Because no DNA could be recovered from the bones, their exact identity is unresolved. One hypothesis, though, does suggest that the Red Deer Cave people may have been hybrids between Homo sapiens and an older lineage, like the Denisovans. If true, they would have been among the last survivors of a now extinct group. The discovery did also help reshape the broader picture of human evolution in the region. Until then, most evidence for late Pleistocene humans came from coastal and northern China. The Red Deer Cave remains expanded that map a bit southward, showing the diversity of populations across the continent. These new fossils are now housed at the Yunnan University in Kunming, where they continue to be studied using new imaging and isotopic techniques. Number 9. The Sterkfontein Caves, the Gauteng province of South Africa. Just northwest of Johannesburg lies one of the most important fossil sites in the world, the Sterkfontein Caves, part of South Africa's Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site. This site first gained attention in 1936 when students from the University of the Witwatersrand discovered ancient primate fossils under the supervision of paleontologist Raymond Dart. A year later, Dr. Robert Broom found an adult skull belonging to Australopithecus africanus, confirming Dart's earlier controversial claim that humans evolved in Africa. This marked a turning point in anthropology. It shifted scientific focus away from Asia and Europe toward Africa as humanity's true cradle. Over the decades, Sterkfontein has produced several landmark discoveries. Among them is Mrs. Plez, a nearly complete skull of Australopithecus africanus found in 1947. Estimated to be around 2.1 million years old, it remains one of the best preserved early hominin fossils ever found. Another major find was Littlefoot, discovered in the 1990s, and represented an even older specimen, about 3.6 million years old, belonging to the same genus. The discovery of an almost complete skeleton of Australopithecus provided an unprecedented look at body proportions, locomotion, and the anatomy from a crucial stage in human evolution. Fossils here were preserved when animals and early humans fell into underground sinkholes or were then washed in by water, and sediments gradually accumulated, encasing the bones and artifacts in calcified breccia. Through excavation, researchers have then reconstructed not only the fossils but the ancient environments in which they lived. Stone tools found here show that the site continued to be used by later species like Homo habilis and Homo erectus. These tools mark the technological transition from primitive pebble choppers to more refined flakes and cores, evidence of growing intelligence. For anthropologists, Sterkfontein is providing tangible proof of humanity's African origins. From Australopithecus to early Homo, the fossils unearthed here trace a direct line through deep time, showing how walking upright, using tools, and eventually thinking symbolically evolved in parallel with environmental change. Number 8. The Blombos Cave. Located along the southern coast of South Africa, the Blombos Cave has transformed what scientists know about the origins of human creativity. Excavated since the early 1990s by archaeologist Christopher Herschelwood, the cave contains artifacts dating back as far as 100,000 years. This is well before the rise of organized civilization or even written language. These finds show that early Homo sapiens were capable of abstract thinking and symbolic behavior far earlier than once believed. The most famous discoveries from Blombos are pieces of ochre engraved with geometric patterns, crosshatched designs that some researchers consider the world's earliest known art. One fragment, dated to about 75,000 years ago, bears a deliberate grid-like motif etched into the surface. This engraving, along with other artifacts, suggests that humans in this period already used symbols for communication or decoration, which challenges the long-held idea that complex culture began only 40,000 years ago in Europe. The cave also had some evidence of advanced toolmaking. Archaeologists uncovered finely made bifacial points. These are projectile tips shaped from silkrete stone through heat treatment, which is an early example of controlled thermal technology. This involved heating the stone to alter its properties, making it easier to shape. That's an innovation that required planning and an understanding of materials. The chemical analysis of the ochre residue and shell fragments indicate that early inhabitants mixed pigments and possibly used them for body painting, ornamentation, or hide processing. Excavations also reveals layers of occupation extending over tens of thousands of years, showing that Blombos had served as a recurring shelter for hunter-gatherers who fished, collected shellfish, and hunted small game. Blombos Cave has reshaped our understanding of what it meant to be human. Its findings show that symbolic thinking, abstract design, and aesthetic expression didn't emerge suddenly in Europe during the so-called creative explosion. Instead, they evolved gradually among African populations, long before humans spread outwards to the other continents. Number 7. Shanidar Cave, Iraq. In the Zagros Mountains of northern Iraq, the Shanidar Cave offers one of the most direct glimpses into Neanderthal life and behavior. Excavated between 1951 and 1960 by archaeologist Ralph Solecki of Columbia University, the cave contains the remains of 10 Neanderthals, dating from around 35,000 to 65,000 years ago. One famous individual found there, known as Shanidar I, had suffered severe injuries during life. He was missing part of his right arm, had a damaged eye, and displayed signs of degenerative disease, yet he survived for years after his injuries. That indicates that others must have cared for him, feeding or protecting him where he could no longer fend for himself. Such evidence of social care has challenged the outdated stereotype of Neanderthals as brutish or primitive. Even more striking was the discovery of pollen grains clustered around another individual, Shanidar IV. Solecki interpreted this as evidence of a deliberate burial with flowers, a symbolic act that suggests Neanderthals may have had rituals or beliefs about death. In 2016, a new phase of excavation led by the University of Cambridge resumed work at Shanidar using modern techniques. The team discovered additional remains, part of a crushed skull and torso belonging to a Neanderthal adult, found in a shallow depression that appeared to have been intentionally dug. This supports the idea that Neanderthals practiced burial long before modern humans entered the region. Artifacts from the site, including stone tools, show that Shanidar's occupants were skilled hunters and toolmakers who adapted successfully to the harsh mountain environment. Animal bones found alongside the human remains indicate they hunted wild goats, deer, and smaller mammals. Shanidar Cave has become a symbol of Neanderthal humanity. This is a reminder that empathy, cooperation, and perhaps even grief were part of our shared evolutionary story. These were beings who cared for the injured, buried their dead, and lived together in the shadow of a mountain cave. Number 6. The Cave of Liang Bua, Indonesia. On the Indonesian island of Flores, a discovery made in 2003 inside Liang Bua Cave changed our understanding of human evolution. Archaeologists working with the Indonesian-Australian team unearthed a partial skeleton of a small-bodied human unlike any known population. The remains belonged to a female adult who stood barely over 1 meter tall and had a brain roughly 1/3 the size of modern humans. She was soon nicknamed the Hobbit and formerly classified as Homo floresiensis. The excavation revealed that this species lived on Flores between about 100,000 and 60,000 years ago, thousands of years after Homo erectus disappeared from Asia and long after modern humans had evolved. The skeleton, known as LB1, was found alongside stone tools, animal bones, and evidence of controlled fire. What astonishes scientists, though, was that despite its small size and primitive features, it was capable of making tools and hunting large animals, such as the now extinct dwarf elephant, the stegodon. The cave itself is sitting high on a limestone cliff near a river, and it's been occupied repeatedly by different species of humans over tens of thousands of years. Radiocarbon and luminescence dating confirmed that the Hobbit lived at a time when modern humans were already spreading across Southeast Asia. Its anatomy has fueled years of debate. Some early researchers suggested the bones belonged to a modern human with a growth disorder, but detailed analysis of the skull, pelvis, and wrist bones ruled that out. The species did have unique traits: short stature, long arms, and a brain case that was shaped differently from modern humans and Homo erectus. These anatomical differences, combined with advanced tool use, does indicate a separate evolutionary path rather than a deformity. The excavations here unearthed bones of giant storks, Komodo dragons, and pygmy elephants, showing that the island did support an ecosystem of both miniature and oversized species. Charred bones and cut marks suggest that these little hobbits used fire and butchered animals systematically, proving advanced behavior could arise in small-brained hominins. Ongoing DNA research aims to determine whether they were related to other archaic human species like the Denisovans, but no genetic material has yet been recovered due to the tropical conditions. Today, the cave is a functioning site and a National Heritage Landmark. Local guides lead visitors through the enormous entrance chamber, where layers of sediment continue to record nearly 200,000 years of human history. The discovery of Homo floresiensis stands as a powerful reminder that evolution produced multiple intelligent human species, each adapting in its own remarkable way to the environments that it called home. Number 5. The Cave of El Sidron, Spain. In the hills of northern Spain, the Cave of El Sidron has provided some of the most detailed insights into Neanderthal genetics. First discovered in 1994 and excavated extensively since 2000, El Sidron contains the remains of at least 13 Neanderthal individuals, men, women, and children, dating to around 49,000 years ago. What makes this site remarkable isn't only the number of well-preserved bones, but also the DNA that scientists have been able to extract from them. The bones were found in a single chamber deep within the cave, apparently deposited there by a natural collapse rather than a deliberate burial. Many showed signs of cut marks and fracturing consistent with defleshing and marrow extraction. While early interpretations suggest cannibalism, later studies concluded that this was likely a survival response during periods of extreme scarcity rather than a cultural practice. The DNA sequencing showed that the individuals were closely related, possibly members of an extended family group of several males sharing the same mitochondrial lineage, indicating they were brothers or cousins, while the females carried distinct lineages, suggesting a social structure where males remained in their birth group and females migrated between the groups, similar to many modern human societies. These fossils also had important data about Neanderthal biology. Genetic analysis identified genes associated with speech, skin color, and metabolism, confirming that Neanderthals shared a FOXP2 gene linked to language development. This discovery has reinforced the idea that Neanderthals were capable of spoken communication, contradicting older theories that portrayed them as mute or cognitively inferior. Archaeologists also found stone tools, typical of the late Neanderthals, and these flake tools were made from quartzite and chert, carefully shaped for cutting, scraping, and butchering. El Sidron's data has made it a cornerstone of modern paleoanthropology. It shows that Neanderthals were not an evolutionary dead end, but an adaptable and socially complex human species with family bonds, dietary diversity, and potential linguistic capacity. Number 3. The Cave of Swartkrans, South Africa. Only a few kilometers from Sterkfontein, the Cave of the Swartkrans has yielded one of the richest and detailed fossil records of early human evolution ever found. Excavations have produced remains from at least 2 species, dating between 1.8 and 1 million years ago. The cave was first explored in the 1940s by Dr. Robert Blum, who uncovered robust Australopithecine fossils with thick jaws and large teeth suited for chewing through tough vegetation. Later excavations uncovered evidence of a second population, taller, more slender individuals with larger brains and more advanced tool use, representing the early humans. Swartkrans is particularly notable for the evidence of controlled fire use, some of the earliest known on Earth. Charred bones and burned stone fragments from the site have been dated to about 1 million years ago. Microscopic analysis confirmed that the bones were heated to high temperatures consistent with open flames rather than natural bushfires. This does suggest that early humans like Homo erectus were deliberately using fire, possibly for cooking, protection, or warmth inside the cave. The site has also revealed thousands of animal bones, many showing signs of both human and predator activity. Some were fractured by stone tools, while others bear puncture marks from leopards and hyenas. This mix has given rise to the cave accumulation theory that early humans sometimes used Swartkrans as a temporary shelter, while at other times large predators dragged carcasses and occasionally humans into the cave. CK Brain's decades-long analysis of Swartkrans has helped pioneer the field of taphonomy, the study of how bones become fossilized and what that reveals about ancient behavior. His work has showed that caves here are not static time capsules, but dynamic environments shaped by nature and human action. Number 2. The Cave of Loltun, Mexico. Deep in the hills of the Yucatan Peninsula, the Cave of Loltun, from the Mayan Loltun, meaning flower stone, is one of the most remarkable geological sites in Mesoamerica. extending for more than 2 kilometers underground, it preserves a record of human occupation that spans tens of thousands of years, from Ice Age hunters to the height of the Maya civilization. Loltun was first explored in the late 19th century, but local Maya communities had known about it for centuries. Excavations led by archaeologist E.H. Thompson in the early 1900s uncovered stone tools, human bones, and the remains of extinct Pleistocene animals like mammoths and giant sloths. The oldest cultural layers of the caves, dating to more than 10,000 years ago, contain crude stone implements associated with early hunter-gatherers. Later layers from around 3,000 years ago onward show evidence of established Maya presence, pottery, carved stones, and wall art that reflects their complex and social religious life. The interior is immense. Its towering halls and narrow corridors have some underground rivers in there. Some of the most famous chambers, like the Cathedral Room and the Room of Inscriptions, contain petroglyphs and painted figures that reveal how deeply the cave was woven into Maya belief systems. One section, known as the Room of Music, features a natural formation that produces resonant tones when struck. That's a feature that ancient occupants may have used in performances. Modern dating methods have refined the cave's timeline. Radiocarbon tests on charcoal and bone fragments confirm that humans were active there at least 10,000 years ago, making it one of the earliest known sites in the Yucatan Peninsula. The transition from hunting animals to cultivating crops is preserved in the layers here, marking the shift from Ice Age subsistence to early agriculture. Today, the cave is both an archaeological research site and a protected national monument. Excavations continue under the supervision of Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History, with ongoing studies of the cave's microclimate, rock art, and organic remains. From prehistoric hunters to Maya priests, generations descended into these caves, seeking shelter, sustenance, and meaning, and they left behind a layered story that connects the earliest humans of the Americas with one of its greatest civilizations. Number 1. The Denisova Cave DNA Discoveries, Russia. Although Denisova Cave first appeared earlier in this list, subsequent research has revealed discoveries so groundbreaking that the site deserves a final distinct mention. It is the only known location on Earth to yield direct DNA evidence from 3 different human species: Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, and Denisovans, providing a complete genetic record of our intertwined evolutionary past. After the first Denisovan bone fragment was sequenced in 2010, scientists continued to excavate deeper layers of sediment, collecting soil samples and undisturbed strata. These samples contained microscopic traces of ancient DNA shed by humans and animals over hundreds of thousands of years. By analyzing environmental DNA, researchers were able to identify species that had occupied the cave even when no visible fossils remained. This genetic data transformed Denisova into one of the most important sites in history. Scientists discovered that the cave had been inhabited on and off for at least 300,000 years by different hominid groups at different times. Some layers contained Denisovan DNA only, while others included Neanderthal and later early modern human DNA. This sequencing revealed an evolutionary overlap. These populations not only succeeded one another, but occasionally interbred. In 2018, researchers announced one of the most astonishing finds ever made: a bone fragment belonging to an individual nicknamed Denny, who had a Neanderthal mother and a Denisovan father. This was the first direct evidence of hybridization between archaic human groups, proving that interbreeding occurred and that our evolutionary tree is far more entangled than once imagined. The cave also contains stone tools, animal bones, and ornamental objects like pendants and beads, which did suggest a cultural behavior comparable to early Homo sapiens. But today, Denisova Cave is studied using advanced genomic and geological techniques that continue to refine the timeline of our human evolution. This site's environmental DNA approach, detecting the genetic traces in the sediment rather than relying solely on bones, has revolutionized archaeology worldwide, opening new possibilities for exploring other ancient sites without extensive excavation. What began with a single fossilized fingertip has expanded into a complete portrait of prehistoric life, revealing our boundaries between species were not rigid but fluid, shaped by migration, contact, and exchange. It is the ultimate cave discovery. It's not just an artifact or artwork, but the biological evidence of who we are and how we became us.